So this podcast is making me thirsty. The number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is 2 Up and 2 Down. Here's our producer, Chris, to start us off.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of 2 Up and 2 Down. Listen, we're doing every episode of Seinfeld here. And today we got the Understudy from season 6. So, Chris, start us off. What's your first up?
The Understudy, the season 6 finale, folks. So you know the deal here. Got to give 2 positives, 2 negatives. We don't talk to each other before the show, so this is a surprise to both of us. 29.8 million people watched The Understudy back in the day there. And believe it or not, fun fact, it was going against Die Hard 2 on CBS and Columbo on ABC. So interesting stuff there. So here we go. First up, a decent amount of ups in this episode. But I'm going to kick off with the George and Jerry back at the apartment after the whole incident happened with the plow and the catcher and everything, when they were consoling the Understudy. And then Kramer comes in, and his Broadway speech, he just crushes that whole but the whole nonverbal consolation stuff I loved. And the Kramer, I'm packing into this because it was the same scene. It was an incredible 60 to 90 seconds. But the whole thing, you want to make it on Broadway, you got to, Kramer just, speaks for the working man, if you will. And always good to hear his passion. But the George and Jerry consoling, I always loved because there was actually really no speaking in that scene up until Kramer came in, quite frankly. So a great directing, great acting from Jerry and George for my first up.
Yeah, good pick there. I always love those scenes where something goes down and they all get together to figure out, what went wrong. So, good one there. Tony, over to you. What's your first up?
Yeah, my partner loves Kramer. I thought he was going to go with the one where they're pushing each other, fighting each other over the thing. That's where I thought you were going with that up front, but that's okay. I like, Kramer delivers a lot in this one. My first up, though, is also a George and Jerry, and my co-host over there is wearing his Yankee jersey, and that's why I like this episode. I mean, it's no Frenzo Clyde, but I love them just warming up on the softball field. They got the jerseys on with the pinstripes. George got the sunglasses on. I like them out of the, in the city there. They try to make it like Central Park. Obviously, it's not, but they at least, they're out there having a catch, Then follows up to George on the mound. I just like the whole baseball game, softball game, I should say. George up there talking trash to Midler. Just get them out of their element a little bit. We hear about these softball games. Now we finally get to see one. This dates back to real life stuff when the Jerry and Larry, or at least Larry was on the comic strip or whatever it was, their softball team in the city when they were all comedians.
And then Larry played on the softball team, so I knew him well from that. Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. That's always great to hear those comic softball leagues.
No. Won it in 87, brother. 1987. We won it all. Larry was the first baseman. Home Rano, Ray Romano. He was the right fielder. John Manfilati played, a character on Ray's show. And it was Sarah Silverman, second base.
What were you?
Center, baby. I'm pulling those long fly balls that Mike Ivey was giving up. Yeah, I was running that down, man.
Well, we know you're a great soccer player. Yeah, we got to get that speed out in center. That makes sense.
Yes, that's exactly. You know what? They weren't saying, "Hey, Marty, be a part of this team because your stand-up act is brilliant." They said, "We saw you run and catch and throw, so can you join us in the park?" So that's why I was hanging out.
So I like that scene. I like the two of them, wearing their jeans and their jerseys. George running around the bases and everything else. Just a good little scene. Of them out of their element a bit. And, George comes to the mound. George's like, what are you doing? Just go back there. What are you telling me what to do? I'm on the pitch of softball here. So that's my actual first thumbs up of this episode is the softball game. I did enjoy that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Great up. So super pick there, Tony. Chris, over to you. What's your second up?
Yeah, George on the mound talking about chin music to up and in, I guess, with Bet. And I love George's the Easton bat, right? Nothing better than that. The old metal bat. Everyone knows the Easton bat. Second up, I got to go with it. Friend of the show, his first episode, Peterman. What an intro on the street with the distraught Elaine, describing obviously the jacket in only a way he could. It was a great intro to Peterman. Again, back then I don't know what the Peterman Catholic was, but I'm like, this guy really captured my imagination the way he spoke. But even back then, and then they went and got wine, the whole thing. You could tell there was nothing like romantic there. That he was a character, which they did. Hirschfeld, great job there with Peterman. You don't think of Peterman this early, season 6, but yeah, I mean, this is a finale of 6, and Peterman saved a lot of the later years. We'll give you that, but a nice little, subtle touch with Peterman there on the street. Obviously, when we first meet him, so and obviously, friend of the show, told us a lot of great stories. So he's my second up.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great character introduction with Peterman there in this episode. So another solid pick there. Tony, over to you. What do you got for your second up?
Yeah, interesting. Good point. Like, I don't know. We didn't know, at least me, like O'Hara mentioned, he didn't either, who Peterman was. Was this a real character? Was it a fake character? Obviously, we learned pretty quickly on that it was something they based it on. But, and it's weird because I wrote down as an up Peterman in the restaurant with Elaine. I did like Peterman's intro. When we get into downs, maybe there was some stuff there I didn't necessarily love, but overall, I agree. A first episode of Peterman was great, and it is end of season 6, so it seems early, but I guess to O'Hara's point, it is kind of late in the game because season 7 is about to kick off. Listen, my ups in this episode, we're gonna get, we'll get there with grades. Most of my ups, aside from the one I just gave, is small. That was like a big scene I gave. Everything else is kind of just quick notes, and one of them I just keep going back to it, so I'm going to use it as I'm looking at my ups here. It's why we love Frank Costanza. I think it's why when we talk to the writers of Seinfeld, well, they love Frank Costanza. His delivery of these lines, you never know if he means it or if he messed it up or if he was supposed to say it or not to say it. But his line of "this guy, this is not my kind of guy." Every time I love that line. I'll use that line. I'll say it the same way he says it every time. I mean, I don't know if he messed that up, if he was supposed to say that, if he had more to say, just the way he delivers that. Elaine and him together, we can get there. Maybe what, as we talk through this through Ed Downs and whatnot. But I think that little quick thing there in Monks when Frank just does that line, the whole foot order problem and everything else. But just this guy, not my kind of guy. I love that line. I'm glad they kept it in, whether it was meant to be or not meant to be. So that's my second thumbs up.
That's just a Frank Costanza way of saying something, and like you said, delivered perfectly by his character. So, all right, that wraps up the ups. So, Chris, back to you. What do you got for your first down?
Yeah, Leifer and Gross wrote this episode. So a lot of great lines, but you never know if Frank kind of took that one on his own. So the downs, this one always kind of drove me crazy. The fake Kramer running through New York City, grabbing Italian ices. It doesn't even look like Kramer. The stupid walk. We've seen it in a few other episodes. When he has the kidney stone, the whole thing. But this would seem like over the top. This guy, the hair was all over. I enjoyed the part right before that with the old school Italian ice guy. We have tutti frutti, but outside of that, Kramer run on New York City, and it felt like it went on for like 40 seconds. I didn't count it, but it felt like a long time. Didn't like it, and I didn't like the laugh track that was associated with it because I thought it was so funny. Didn't laugh once, so for me, the Kramer fill-in guy running around, didn't like it.
All right, thank you, Chris. And Tony, over to you. What's your first down?
Huge down. Wrote almost the exact same thing. They've used this guy before. Never liked it. It's terrible. Doesn't look like Kramer. Can't move like Kramer. We know Kramer. You're not going to give me a stand-in on Kramer acting like Kramer. I mean, what are we doing? Definitely didn't like it. My second down is kind of a big one. It kind of weighs this episode. We'll get there. But I just gave Frank an up, talking to Elaine and whatnot with this guy. But the Frank Elaine stuff, I mean, I get the premise. I'm guessing either Leaf or Gross probably had this happen to them where they went to a manicure place and the people were talking about them. So maybe they got someone to come in and translate. You got to think that might have happened, or at least a premise there. Great premise. I just thought the Frank having an affair in Korea stuff was just too much for me, man. I didn't like it at all. Odd take. She seems way too young for him, first of all, which I never really understood. He had this big. It went on for way too long. Then in the car, it keeps going, and then the hand thing he pulls back. That whole thing. A good 5, 7, 10 minute chunk of this episode, really, if you count the in the store, in the car, the whole thing. I didn't like any of it. I thought, bring him there, get a couple of laughs, but this whole side story of him having the affair, selling the Korean stuff, I didn't like it at all. I think they got Frank into the episode, with Jerry, who does it? Frank Costanza knows Korea. Okay, fine. Bring him into the store. Give me something funny there. But the affair stuff went off the rails for me. Big down for me. Always was. Never sat well. Didn't like anything about it. I don't like Frank having an affair. I think the chick's too young for him too. On top of that, I don't think it played well. Love to have her on the show, by the way, though. Amy Hill, I believe. Anywho, that's my first big down here.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Chris, back to you. What do you have for your next down?
Yeah, Amy Hill. She was 26 years younger than Jerry Stiller. But Tony's big on this stuff. He doesn't like Kramer with Sarah Silverman. Like this age gap stuff, really, he nitpicks. So it's funny. I kind of enjoyed the Frank Elaine stuff, but we'll get to the grade, and who knows where we land on this grade. But
I also don't like knowing that Frank's having affairs on the side, but he's not that kind of guy. Not like the kind of guy I like there. He has a lot to take.
Listen, wartime, you do what you got to do.
Fair
you know
point.
What I mean? And who knows? He might not have been married then.
Good point. They don't really specify that.
Yeah. Because George is, at 30 something at that point. But be that as it may. All right. Second down. I'm just gonna go with Bette Midler. The theme of her. I never liked. Again, it felt like a finale gimmick, right? May sweeps. Let's get Bette Midler in there. We'll promote the hell out of her. Funny thing is, Friends ran after this and did a better number, believe it or not, at 9:30. But Macaroni Midler, we're bringing that back in. Enough already, okay? Fusilli Jerry, let it be a standalone episode. I'm bringing in Macaroni Midler. And, Tony probably likes it, the Minx and the whole her singing. I mean, enough. They could have done this whole thing. I guess it's the Understudy, so they needed somewhat of a star, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a Bette Midler guy. She's welcome on the show, of course. Good singer, I guess, Wind in the Wings, but it doesn't feel like a Seinfeld, Keith Hernandez is one thing. Bette Midler, what are we doing? Second down.
Well, Jerry did get the greatest hits of, Bette Midler from from Elaine. So, yeah, maybe he is a fan. Anyway, Tony, back to you. What do you got for your second down?
He got me on that. I like the song. I didn't mind Midler as much as I thought I would. She wasn't terrible. I could see where it rubbed him the wrong way, though. He did love, the Kramer stuff with Midler. I'm sure he loved Kramer giving the other speech. I did write Midler singing Rochelle as an up, but I think to Harry's point, I could see it down there as well. But I don't think she was as bad as I thought she was okay. Like the banter with George. Harry loves the ratings, by the way, giving it to us. Friends beat it out, huh? My down, though, who I didn't like, and I'm sorry, I never liked, is the Understudy. I mean, I think that's part of the part here. She's supposed to be dislikable, perhaps, but it's just too much with the crying. I never liked it. It's just fake crying is never funny. It's so hard to fake cry. And so I know they were trying to overdo it to make it funny. I get it. I'm not, we're not dumb here, folks. We know what they're doing. We know that it's supposed to be funny, right? Over the top. It's just not good. It's not my kind of humor. I didn't like it. I thought she overplayed it. The Tanya Harding stuff and, Gulia and all that. If you live the time, it was okay. I get what they were doing, obviously, but I didn't like that the actress, how she kind of played that off. I mean, it For some reason, it kind of reminded me of the other one there, singing Miss America, who we also kind of gave a knock to, although loved her on the show, and she told us kind of why she did it. All, it makes sense. You're trying to kind of be bad.
I always hate when people have to act like they can't sing because they do this thing where they're off pitch and they're also off tempo. And people usually have one or the other. Very few people have neither, right? So it's like, let's just keep her on tempo and just sing anything but the note. And we tried that, and he started laughing. He's like, okay, that's what we'll do.
But I just didn't land with me at all. The understudy chick, dropping the Frankfurter and everything else. Didn't like it. So the crying was a little over the top for me. And if I didn't like that, I didn't like Frank. This episode had a lot of downs, if you will, a lot of big downs weighing this thing down. So we'll get there, though. That's my second down.
All right. Thank you, Tony. So, Chris, we're going to get back to you, and you're going to wrap this up with your grade and final thoughts here.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe spring is in the air for me. I'm liking these episodes. I enjoyed the Korean women because I feel this. Forget about getting your nails done. Just whenever I'm anywhere, I hear someone with another language talking, I get paranoid. They're talking about me. I get relatable. And Adelaide Miller. Yeah, I think it's a good point. It reminds me of Miss Rhode Island there to a degree, but without her, the Frankfurter, Jerry going over, it's okay. I mean, really funny stuff. The ending I didn't like either with her with the shoelaces. That was too much. But I thought the Galulis, they're calling me Galuli. Like the whole town is after them. It had a small town feel, which felt relatable, like the big play in town. So it didn't, I know it's Broadway, but it didn't feel New York. It was just like someone was loved and Jerry and George were these culprits. The premise I really liked. The Easton Bat, of course. Frank, of course, you mentioned. This guy's not with them a guy. Peterman. Like, listen, you said I love Kramer. I didn't like the Kramer getting the ice stuff and fawning over, He was probably in theory, he was probably the biggest down in the episode, to be honest, Kramer. Just, what was he doing? Gaga over Midler. His speech was good, yes. Frank was good. I thought Elaine was good. George and Derry playing baseball. I don't know. Yeah, the finale, some gimmicky stuff. Midler, Tony loves Midler, but I got to be fair here. He's not going to like this grade, but I'm going to give the understudy a B-. I don't think I had enough. I could have gone higher. I was in a good mood, but he talked me down a little bit here. But I think a lot of the stuff was by design that helped the whole premise of the show. So, listen, Leifer and Gross finale. I think a B- is a fair grade.
All right, yeah, thank you, Chris. And Tony, over to you. What do you got for your grades and thoughts here?
Yeah, listen, I'm not in D range. Don't worry. I know I'm poo-pooing a little bit here, but I'm not in B range either. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. You'll find, we'll get there. I have 2 written down. Bob Shaw, the cab driver, to O'Hara's point. I do like that. It did have. He's right. It had that small town feel a little bit. I like the Galuli stuff. Don't get me wrong. I didn't love the woman herself, the understudy, but I did like the Galuli stuff tied in. I hated the Kramer running through the park, as he mentioned. And I agree, a lot of good premises. I love the premise of what is she saying, what they talking about in the manicure store. Let's have someone come in who knows the language. Very similar to the lip reader stuff, right? I like it. I just thought the Frank Affair stuff is where they lost me. I didn't like Elaine as much as O'Hara did. I thought the crying, again, I guess it ties into the other lady crying. Elaine just walking on the street crying in the middle, all lost. I thought Peterman was great. I don't think Elaine brought much to this episode, to be honest with you. But that's okay. She doesn't need to. The maybe Korea dog's like a compliment, like Fox. She's a dog. That was a pretty good Kramer line. It's a solid episode. I'm tinkering between 2. I'm not far off from where O'Hara is at all. I'm really not. He came down a little bit, it sounds like. It's a season 6 episode. It's not on the top of the list of season 6 episodes. It plays more like season 7 to me. I'm going to just a notch below. He brought me up, actually. I brought him down. I'm going to say C+. I had C written down also, but It's an average episode to me. That's the C range. So I'm going to go C plus. Give it a bump for Midler maybe. Maybe Peterman, something there. Peterman's first episode. Give it a nod, but C plus for the understudy.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. A B minus and C plus for our analysis here. And we thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.